Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're talking about the Nevada Climate Blueprint with Scott Leedom. He's Director of Public Affairs for Southwest Gas, and he's here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're delighted to welcome to the program for the first time Scott Leedom. He is Director of Public Affairs for Southwest Gas. Pleasure to have you on the program, sir.
Thanks for having me, Sam. Really appreciate the opportunity to be on with you today.
Oh, you're very welcome. So the Nevada Climate Blueprint came out, and it made for a very interesting read over what we're going to be seeing over the next decades for Nevada. But the thing that I found interesting, and a lot of other people I've talked to have found interesting, is that it seems to be pushing natural gas out of the way. And this is kind of surprising because when Senator Reed was pushing hard to get rid of coal-fired plants in Nevada, he was very happy to have natural gas plants replacing them. And a lot of people use natural gas for heating, for cooking. Were you guys surprised that was the direction this was taking? And it is a blueprint. It's not written in stone.
Yeah, and thanks for the question, Sam. I think it is a different position for us to be in. We are used to being a company that's been around for 90 years. It's always provided clean and affordable product to our customers, to the 750,000 customers we have here in Nevada, and have always been viewed as part of the solution. And we believe that Southwest Gas is still part of the solution. We have been in the past and will be in the future. We're committed to helping the state achieve its climate goals, and we view ourselves as a partner. We applaud the efforts of the state in putting together this Nevada climate strategy during some difficult circumstances. But yeah, we do have some concerns with some of the policies in there, particularly the ones that phase out natural gas in homes and businesses, and just want to be able to help the state meet its long-term goals without abandoning the natural gas infrastructure that our customers have paid for and are still paying for today.
Well, and one of the things that has come up on the program and in discussions privately is people in the construction industry just kind of raising their eyebrows at the idea that natural gas would go away. Are we seeing this kind of push in other states across the country, or is this just in the Nevada blueprint?
Well, absolutely. We're seeing it across the country. About a year and a half ago, the first city in the country to ban natural gas in the new construction of homes and businesses was Berkeley, California. And since then, about 40 or 50 cities have followed suit, certainly throughout California, but also in Massachusetts and in other areas across the country. And it's a trend that obviously we're watching very closely, and it's climate change is something that's been being talked about by everyone who takes climate change seriously, and certainly we do as well. But there's ways to go about it that don't limit customers' energy choice and still have the overall effect of reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the communities that we live in and work in.
All right, so why don't you start laying out some of those thoughts, for us here, so people understand that this isn't like the natural gas industry has been sitting around going, we're just going to continue to do what we've been doing forever. I mean, you've been making progress around this renewable role as well, have you not?
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, natural gas has been part of the solution, and it will be in the future. Natural gas is responsible for driving greenhouse gas emissions down to a 25-year low across the country. And even within our own state, nearly 70% of the electricity comes from natural gas currently. And even with the new renewable portfolio standard, 10 years from now, half of our electricity will still come from natural gas. So moving forward, we will continue to be part of this solution. Southwest Gas is aggressively pursuing opportunities to decarbonize our infrastructure system. We can do that in several different ways. One of them is adding renewable natural gas to our system. There's also opportunities for adding hydrogen, doing carbon offsets. We have a number of different avenues and options that we can utilize to decarbonize without, again, getting rid of our existing infrastructure that we already have throughout the state. And both of these zero carbon emission fuels will allow us to be carbon neutral by 2050 in line with the state's goals.
Are there other states or even other countries that are utilizing decarbonization as part of their process, or do they have test facilities that are already up and running?
Yeah, I think there are multiple other states that are looking at similar types of policies. There's states that have set aggressive goals to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. But it's been our experience that putting all of your eggs in one basket is not a sound strategy for any policy, especially energy policy. And so as states like California have moved away from natural gas for electric generation, they've experienced rolling blackouts in some areas because of not being able to meet peak demand. And so we want to look at this more holistically and make sure that the policies that we're enacting don't create a situation like that where we are struggling to meet our demands.
And you don't necessarily need to comment on this, but I mean, the politicians that are laying out these goals are not going to be in office in 2050. And so it's great to come up with all these ideas. And, I think everybody with any common sense is looking at, getting a cleaner atmosphere. But, the repercussions of this are going to go on for generations. And the cost factor, we've already seen, as you mentioned, the shortages in California over the summer. And, that resulted in Nevada being asked to cut back on their electricity as well. When we look back to the Enron period, where people were buying things at the last minute rather than having long-term contracts, the costs went through the roof, and it was the consumer that paid for it. At what point do you think that the consumer is going to be awakened? Because you have this great concept, which is fine. Everybody wants a healthy planet, a cleaner planet, you name it. But at the same time, what's your power bill going to be? I mean, if you're getting rid of all this, generation of natural gas to the public that's being used throughout the state of Nevada at this point in time, and trying to replace it with electricity, is not the cost to the consumer going to be horrendous?
We feel like it will be. And you're correct, Sam, in that the cost of these policies will be borne by everyday Nevadans. And natural gas rates typically 3 or 4 times lower than electricity rates. And so when you talk about moving away from the direct use of natural gas in your homes and businesses, that's something that you need to factor. We've found that, and research has found that households save an average of about $900 every year when they use natural gas over electricity, which is incredibly important for individuals on fixed and low incomes. And so those costs have got to be taken into account and considered when looking at these policies, and certainly policies that shift from one of the lowest bills in the stack to one of the highest bills need to be carefully looked at before being pursued.
One of the things that occurs with shale oil drilling is the release of natural gas, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so right now we're seeing with what's going on internationally, Saudi Arabia cutting 1 million barrels of oil a day. That's going to raise the price of oil to the point where shale drillers will come back online because they can make a profit doing that, which they have not been able to do in the last couple of years because of the prices. That's going to release even more natural gas that will be available at lower costs. So it seems like we're cutting our noses to spite our face instead of coming up with a plan that includes everybody.
Well, and one of the benefits of natural gas is you're pointing out, Sam, is that it's domestically sourced here within the country, and it's very abundant, and it's available, and that's allowed costs to stay very low in natural gas and make it a very low cost and affordable product for people. And frankly, that's one of the things that keeps natural gas in high demand for us and for customers across the country.
One of the things that's interesting, because there have certainly been people having discussions and saying, well, this is a bill that has been written by the electric companies. But for example, in Nevada, NV Energy also is a supplier of natural gas. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I certainly don't want to speak for the electric company, but we have a very good relationship with them. We talk to them often, and you're absolutely correct, Sam, in that they own a natural gas distribution company as well that serves Reno and Sparks. And from our conversations with them, I think it's a part of their business that they want to retain and continue to have in the future.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back much more on this topic, and it's a big one. It's going to affect everybody in the state of Nevada and around this country after this time out.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino. All new DC Cafe and Bar, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Ooh, your good times at Tamarack.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
Kenny! Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow! This stuff is great! People are gonna love it!
Yes. Yes, they will.
Ahern Rentals began as Signal Gas Station on Las Vegas Boulevard. Founder John Ahern grew the business by offering rentals. His son Don built on John's legacy, growing Ahern Rentals into the largest independently owned American rental company, with 89 locations in 30 states. Don also brought his experience and vision to equipment manufacturing with Extreme Manufacturing and Snorkel. Today, Ahern Rentals continues to bring its family values to a new generation. Learn more at ahern.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino. All new DC Cafe and Bar, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Ooh, your good times at Tamarack.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Scott Leedom. He's Director of Public Affairs for Southwest Gas. We're talking about the Nevada Climate Blueprint. What kind of input was Southwest Gas able to put into the state's climate blueprint?
We participated early on. Well, I should say we met early on with the authors of the climate strategy here in Nevada. It was pre-COVID, so we flew up and met with them and talked to them about our feedback and our concerns with some of the policies that were initially laid out in the greenhouse gas inventory report that came out in January 2020. Had a productive meeting with them, spoke at the Nevada listening sessions that occurred in September and October of last year, and made our input, gave our input into that process, and have really tried to work as closely as we can during a difficult time where you can't really connect in person, but touch base as often as we can with the state to make sure that our concerns and voices being heard. And I think the state has been accessible throughout this period, so we appreciate their accessibility to us.
Okay, and do they understand that the natural gas industry is working on climate change and solutions to these problems?
Yes, I think they understand that very well. I think the strategy that they are laying out in the document is different than the strategy that we would use. Again, it seems to be focused on the electrification of buildings rather than what we would see as the solution, which is decarbonizing our pipeline through adding zero carbon fuels to the pipeline and using our existing infrastructure rather than abandoning it in favor of electrification of buildings.
So what does this do when Southwest Gas is in the planning process? Because the lifespan of a natural gas plant is not 2 years. It's a lengthy investment. It's one that has to go through the PUC to get your reimbursements and all the rest of this. Does this make Southwest Gas sit back and go, well, if this is going to come down the pike in 30 years, then, we're going to stop building natural gas facilities if this legislation moves forward?
I don't think we're at a point yet, Sam, where we're thinking that way. Quite the opposite. I think we currently are looking to ways to improve and expand our infrastructure. Actually, a few years back, we received the ability from the Nevada legislature to expand natural gas service to underserved and unserved areas of the state. And we currently have 2 projects that we received approval for from our regulators to expand into the areas of Mesquite, Nevada, and Clark County, and to the community of Spring Creek in Elko. And it's worth noting, Sam, that both of these projects will actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the communities that we're serving. Currently, they're being served by propane, and in some cases up north by wood-burning stoves to heat their homes. And by natural gas being available in these communities, we're able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in those communities. And we've found that the response to us coming to each of those communities has been very significant, very exciting. There's a housing development in Spring Creek that 62 out of 62 homes have agreed to sign up and receive natural gas service as soon as it's available.
One of the things that's interesting about renewable electricity, for example, and I had an incidence of this in my personal life, is that, not only do you have the initial cost, but you have the replacement cost down the road, because these things don't last forever. And the cost was so great in terms of replacing solar hot water that I actually went back to natural gas heating. I mean, it just didn't make sense from a cost point of view. And I go back to that. We talked about that a little bit earlier. But the public understands and wants, everybody wants cleaner air, better for our kids, better for everyone. But there's a cost factor that has to play into it. We're a service economy. We don't have a state full of 3 million millionaires. We have a state full of 3 million hardworking people. I mean, is the suggestion at some point that natural gas, and I'm just saying suggestion because this is a blueprint, it's not the law, it's a blueprint, but is the suggestion at some point that natural gas will be pulled out of homes and everybody would have to rewire their homes for electricity?
That is one of the policies that is included in the Nevada climate strategy. It's one of the ones that they evaluate on a number of different factors. And certainly it's one that the state is looking at. We hope it's one that remains kind of low on the priority scale and one that needs much more information before we move forward. But certainly it's one that's being looked at. And you're right, Sam, in that conversion costs for people who would need to convert at some point are very significant, as well as the long-term energy costs for using electricity. And it's worth saying too that as you move away from natural gas appliances in your home and in your business, you're plugging into a grid that, as I mentioned before, is 70% powered by natural gas. So really, you're trading natural gas's most efficient use, which is using it directly in your home and your business, in favor of its most inefficient use, which is burning it for electricity. And so we feel like while the grid is still 70% reliant on natural gas for electricity, it doesn't make a lot of sense to trade one use of natural gas for another use, particularly when you're trading its most efficient use for its most inefficient use.
All right, let's take another break and we'll be right back.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
One of the most psychologically damaging things parents can do to children in divorce is disparage one another, which is why I can't believe I even have to make this commercial. Half of your kids' genetics come from this person you're spewing hate about. Your children have the right to love you both, but more than that, they deserve to love themselves.
Marilyn York might be a men's rights divorce attorney, but this is for every selfish parent. Shut up.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're talking about the Nevada Climate Blueprint with Scott Leedom. He's Director of Public Affairs for Southwest Gas. We have a legislative session coming up. At this point, every lobbyist I have talked to has great concerns about their ability to communicate with legislators. But, what are your thoughts and plans in terms of talking to legislators and educating them on, the various things that we've talked about today?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Sam. I think we were fortunate in that as we saw the trend of natural gas bans starting about a year and a half ago, like I said, we didn't sit on our hands, and we spent almost the entirety of 2019 meeting with legislators virtually, and have met with nearly all of them, including many of the new candidates that have been elected. And we have been talking to them about this issue for over a year. And so a lot of that kind of background work has been done already. We've received a lot of positive feedback from many of the legislators on both sides of the aisle about wanting to see the use of natural gas in homes and businesses preserved long into the future. And we're going to continue that regardless of what the legislative session looks like, whether it's in person or all virtual. Continue to work within whatever bounds and restrictions there are, and continue to have those conversations with legislators.
Okay, quick answer on that. What were the biggest concerns raised by legislators about the idea of natural gas going away?
Well, I think the majority of them, I would say that the large majority of them were unaware that this policy was being discussed so heavily at the state level. And so I think the concern was, well, let's make sure that we are talking to all this necessary stakeholders in the natural gas use space, and making sure that before we enact any policies like that, everyone's voices are heard.
All right, and that's where we got to leave it. Scott Leedom, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate your time, and you'll be welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you for having me, Stan. Happy to come back anytime. Thank you.
You are welcome, and we'll be right back. Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hey, Dad? What are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. You can do that now these days. We'll see you on the next broadcast.